for the midday show from the beautiful Mike Francesa studio of WFAN. Joe is banged up. He's beaten up. It's not all Todd Bowles' fault, but it's certainly, partially his fault. He'll hopefully be back tomorrow. Mike Florio will join me in 15 minutes, and Sean Payton's excuse for why he didn't challenge. By the way, and I didn't mention this yesterday. I think we were only on for 3 hours yesterday. That's my blame for why I didn't bring this up. Early in the St. Viking game, I thought there was a play that Sean Payton should have challenged, and that was right out of the gate. Right out of the gate, there was a 3rd and 1 play for the Vikings, and Latavius Murray looked like he was short, and he was given a very generous spot. And that would have been worth challenging because you challenge it, you win. It's a 3-and-out, you get the ball back. Instead, first down, 5 plays later, McKinnon touchdown, 7-0 Vikings. I was thinking that at the time. Now, you don't have to believe me because I was behind on the game because of the DVR, so I didn't tweet it live. So there's no proof that I actually thought that at the time. So you just have to take my word for it, right? And I know Ernie takes my word for it, so I think I'm pretty trustworthy. I would only complain about something if I truly felt it at the time. But what made it worse were the 2 challenges late. Toll-free number brought to you by Mohegan Sun, Connecticut. Unlimited possibilities await you at Mohegan Sun. Tim is in Milford, Connecticut. How you been, Tim?
Hey, how you doing, Evan?
Good.
I got to ask you something about the Diggs catch, but before, do you think he's going to come back to another show or with Simmons, or you got any idea?
Who, Mike? Is that what you said? Because you cut off for a second. You're asking me where I think Francesa's going to go? Tim, you all right over there?
Hello?
Yes. Did you ask me where I think Mike is going? I want to clarify. Is that what your question was?
Diggs' point I got to bring up, too, if I might.
If I had to guess, I think he wants the Monday Night Football job. I really do. I think that he would like that job. I don't think he's going to get it. And I think he'll end up doing a podcast. That's my prediction. Do I get money if I'm right, Tim?
All right. Now, let me ask you about this Diggs play.
Yes.
I sent this to you on Twitter a few minutes ago. I slowed the replay down.
Yes.
And you could clearly see Diggs cross the end zone with 1 second left on the clock. Can you tell me why they didn't review that? I mean, the ball crosses the end zone with 1 second on the clock. It's my opinion they should have had a kickoff. Nothing probably would have came of it, but there still should have been 1 second left on the clock.
There's one other thing, Tim, which I'm surprised you didn't bring up if you were noticing that. They also threw a penalty on Diggs for celebration when he took his helmet
off.
Right,
so they should have kicked off from their own 10-yard line or whatever it is.
You know what? In fairness, I'm going to look back on it because I got that Game Pass thing, which is totally worth every dime it costs. I'll give them the free advertising. So I'll look back and see if you're right about that. I mean, I trust him. I think he's probably right about that. But I'll take a look if there actually was time left. Steve in New Haven. Hey, Steve.
Hey, what's going on, Evan?
What's up?
Hey, you were talking earlier about Joe yesterday. That was classic. Anyways, the AFC East, they're like the Soviet bloc. They're just waiting for the Soviets to die or Bill like upgrade.
It's true. I mean, you're right about that. And that's not just for the Jets. That's everybody in that stupid division.
Yeah. Anyway, couple quick questions. One, I think let Porzingis play small forward. Can they bring in Boogie Cousins is an unrestricted free agent this year, isn't he?
Yes.
That's the guy I would look at bringing in.
I don't think they're going to have the cap room to go after a guy like Cousins. By the way, it's kind of the opposite of what he said. I like KP at the 5 more so than him, more than going with a bigger lineup. I think in today's NBA, most of the time, big lineups don't work. I know the Pelicans have been doing it with Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins, but if you look at their overall win-loss record, despite the gaudy numbers those two guys have put up, they're not exactly lighting the world on fire. I don't think the Knicks have enough cap room to make a serious push at Boogie Cousins, but I'll take a look at that too. So I got 2 things to look at. John in the car. Hey, John.
Hey, Evan, how are you today?
Good. What's up?
I want to personally thank you and Joe for that little conversation yesterday about the Jets, because I'm a Jet fan only 1 year less than Joe is, and boy, that was fantastic. And I think Joe held back, to be honest with you. There could have a lot more things than that, but Foles is terrible. Joe is 100% right on this. I mean, it's just, and the lack of care and concern by our owners is just, it's sickening. Realize, if you think about this, they haven't gotten it right since they drafted Namath for a franchise quarterback. We've had a couple of decent quarterbacks, but not the guy that brought us to the next level. and brought us to another championship.
The definition.
They can't get it right no matter what they do.
The definition of a franchise quarterback, you're 100% right about. They have not had. Now, to your point, they have made some really good decisions, specifically the year they got out of Vinny in 1998. And you could find others, but really, because that was close to getting to a Super Bowl that year. They had a hell of a team, and I'd probably argue it's the best team they've had since they won a championship. But you're right about that. And Joe's been right on about coaches. I've told this story before because it really left a mark with me. And that was the night that me, Joe, and Ernie, you were there too. You were there for the Eric Mangini thing, right? I think so. We went to, you weren't there? We went to Foxborough. Oh, no, you're right. You weren't there. This was before you. G was our producer. Now G's big superstar, but I think G would, I don't know if Giannotti came to the game, though. No, he did come to the game because he filmed it. We got to find that film. He was filming, like, us getting ready for the game, and I remember I felt bad because it showed Joe putting, like, a cup of coffee on the ground, so he technically littered, and I felt bad about that. We should have edited that out. But basically, Joe and I and G went to a Thursday night Jet-Patriot game, the Matt Castle year, 2008. And if you remember that game, the Jets almost blew it. It was the Brett Favre year. They won the game in overtime. They beat the Patriots. And we're driving back, and I'm telling you, okay, imagine everything Joe says on air about Bowles, except it was about Mangini, and there were a lot of curse words. All right? So there's a lot. That's different when you're not on air. A lot of curse words. And I remember, digesting a lot of it, halfway agreeing, but not really, because I wasn't ready to fire Eric Mangini. I mean, when you look at what he had done with the Jets, the first year he had, the 10-win year, the postseason year, then the bad year, and even this 08 year seemed like things were going okay under Brett Favre, in which he was in a tough spot. Because remember, all of a sudden, here's your new quarterback, it's Brett Favre. But he was, I'm telling you, he's going to kill us. I can't do a full imitation. And he was right, and it stuck with me because he turned out to be very right about Mangini, and the Jets fired him after that season. Now, granted, they collapsed down the stretch and didn't make the playoffs. They got rid of him. Wasn't like that with Rex, but he certainly has that with Todd Bowles. And I think the great answer is, if you watch them every day this season, do you feel he's the answer as the head coach? It's very tough to come up with the answer being yes. Frank in White Plains. What's up, Frank?
Yeah, man. How you doing?
Good, man. What's going on?
Thank you for taking my call. I always talk to you and Joe. Man, I'm just upset about New York Mets, what they doing. What the hell they need Gonzalez? Why they not go get real players to give us fans to watch the game? You know something, Evan? I'm not going to go to Citi Field anymore, and I'm going to advise all my friends, and I'm going to give up the cable too. This is ridiculous for New York Mets. And now some of the guys, they get upset because I call them the worst ownership in the sport. If they are not the worst, then they are close, really.
Right now, I'd put the Marlins ahead of them only because they're taking all the talent that they have and just selling it off. I didn't mind signing Adrian Gonzalez. I mind positioning him to be the everyday first baseman. If Dom Smith outperforms him in Port St. Lucie in February and March, then he should be the first baseman. Majid in East Orange. What's up, Majid?
Hey, how you doing, Joe? Thanks for taking my call, guy. I just have to express myself. Just give me a minute, man. I'm a 50-year Viking fan. I just got to tell you, man, while everybody was screaming and hollering after Diggs caught the pass, I couldn't talk. I couldn't talk. I was crying because I thought we were going to lose. I was crying because I was happy because we scored. I'm going to the game on Sunday, and I'm going to Minnesota for the Super Bowl, buddy boy. What do you think our chances are?
Here's what I'll say before I give you my chances. You better win this freaking game, okay? Because as great as that win was, it was an amazing win. What are they calling it? The Minnesota Miracle? Which I think is a dopey name. I mean, come on. This is the NFL. We've got much cooler names for great moments than the Minnesota Miracle. All right? Even the Music City Miracle. I don't like that. All right? There's other ones. The Immaculate Reception. That's a name. The Ice Bowl. That's the name. All right? You better win this game because you've seen 2009. You've seen 1998. You've seen 2000. You've seen 1987. You got to get to a Super Bowl. But I'll tell you, I love your chances right now because we saw a defense that, even though they let the Saints get back in this game, a legitimately good big-time defense, an offense that continues to, prove everybody wrong. I mean, that 1-2 punch of Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen is damn good. You can run the football with Murray and McKinnon, and obviously the questions are still there about Philadelphia, even though they beat Atlanta last week as an underdog. So I think you have a great chance, but you better win that game. Or else you could take this miracle and the excitement that you had, and what's going to happen is you're going to become bitter about it. because you're going to remember it and think about the defeat you had in an NFC Championship game. That's the thing. Getting over the Viking curses for the older fan is winning a championship. For the younger fan, it's getting to a Super Bowl. You've seen them in an NFC title game. Now you got to go seal the deal next week in Philadelphia against the Eagles. Mike Florio's coming up. We'll talk more football with him. Benigno and Roberts here in the midday until the afternoon drive.